Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. I've had a long soak in the bathtub with some Epsom salt so that I can absorb and soak in some of that magnesium, which will help with my, get rid of some of the tenderness and soreness in my legs and in my muscles. Alhamdulillah, I'm feeling well enough to be out and driving again. Um, right, so what do I want to do? I wanted to talk initially to start off by saying, a big thanks to everyone who supported me. Jazakallah khair. Those people who gave me, the moral support, the encouragement, and more importantly, everyone who donated. It doesn't matter how big or how small the amount was. The fact that you donated, that's what basically means a lot. That's what means everything actually, because your intention, what you intended, is more valuable than the amount that you gave. Nonetheless, Alhamdulillah, we managed to smash our £1,000 target. I think currently we're at like 1,200. So, like, mashallah, la quwwata billah, we have smashed the target. And, just want to say Jazakallah khair to my wife as well, because I think at 75 miles, we were still 25% short of our target. And I think at that point, my wife just started pushing out the messages saying, listen, it's my husband doing the ride. Make sure you donate something. So when it's like a personal message from someone that you know about someone that you know, you're more likely to donate and, give. Alhamdulillah. Um, but yeah, I know, because like 100, everyone's wondering like how did I do it, and it must have been crazy and this and that. But I think a lot of people, a lot of the brothers who are stronger than myself, who have done a 100-mile ride on their own, they always kind of say the same thing, that it's probably the most boringest thing they've done in their life. Partly because I think it's riding a bike obviously is exciting, and being in the wilderness and seeing wildlife, and obviously I saw like a dead deer for the first time in my life. You wouldn't have those kind of experiences if you never went out and you never rode a bike and you never left like the concrete jungle that we live in generally. And and I think the partly it's also because like we don't know, most of us, we haven't trained ourselves, trained our minds to be able to escape within ourselves. Like we're so used to watching Netflix and TV and whatever else, that we don't know how to escape within ourselves. When you escape within yourself, you either create a room or a place where and you know it in vivid detail that you can just basically go and relax and rest, or you retreat into memories. And memories are not like clothes. Like normally, like obviously your favorite clothes, the more you wear it, the more it wears out. Whereas memories are actually the opposite. The more you go to those memories, the more you remember them, the more solidified they become. And that's why it's so important when you remember, when you solidify memories in your mind, or when you experience something which is like really really enjoyable, or it might be the best memory, it might be the worst memory, might be the saddest thing, the happiest moment of your life. Those memories you are supposed to not just remember, but you're supposed to vividly remember the smell, the taste, the sounds, the sight, the colors. When you put it to that level of, when you cement it into your mind with that level of accuracy and detail, when you go back to those memories, they are just, it's almost, you can never relive a memory like the way actually it was, but you get a really strong taste at least of that memory. So when you're out there cycling, obviously you've got to retreat into your mind, retreat into your memories, and think about stuff. And I think it's really really nice for men, because men generally more than women tend to have this need to escape into their like quote unquote man cave, to kind of have this like this alone time where they can do some thinking and stuff. That's why a lot of people take up really like relaxing sports like golf and stuff, where they can spend a lot of time thinking, and not just playing the sport but actually thinking as well. Fishing is the same, camping is the same. Um, and so yeah, coming back to the 100-mile ride, it was definitely grueling. It was definitely really really hard. In actual fact, the first 70 miles weren't actually too bad. Like 70 miles was like, I thought, okay, Alhamdulillah, I'm not mentally fatigued, I'm not physically fatigued. Yeah, normally like it does kick in at 50 miles. It used to kick in at 50 miles. But Alhamdulillah, more recent, like in this ride and especially the previous ride as well, where I've done 70 miles, that fatigue didn't kick in, physical fatigue anyway, and the mental fatigue didn't kick in. And you know, basically what happens is your mind becomes numb and you become like a zombie and you're not thinking straight and you're just like pedaling like almost like a zombie basically without any clear kind of thought. Whereas with this ride, alhamdulillah, up to 70 miles I was doing perfectly fine. I've managed to keep my I was hitting my target, which was, I wanted to basically do the ride at a speed of 16 miles an hour average, which basically means that if you fall below the average you have to speed up. Like, in order to bring that average back up you have to obviously speed up. And it might not seem like a lot, but trust me, it makes a difference whether you're riding at 15 miles an hour or 14 miles an hour or 16 miles an hour. Because, if someone's cycling at 14 miles an hour and I'm cycling at 16 miles an hour, if you do the maths, I'd basically, at the end of the hour, I'll be about 4 miles, well, I'll be 2 miles ahead of them. And then obviously, if we do the 2 hour ride, which is like a 30-mile ride, which is what we normally do, you'll be 4 miles ahead of that person, which is a massive gap. Um, so yeah, so the other thing I wanted to also highlight was the mistakes that I made. And I think again, mistakes are like absolutely crucial. They are absolutely fundamental and crucial to human beings, because human beings are like goal-driven creatures. Like, we strive towards goals, and the only way we can improve is by making mistakes. We're like a torpedo. Like, when you shoot a torpedo at a guided missile or a torpedo, um, the torpedo doesn't just say, "Okay, my target's there, I'm going to hit it." It's not like that. The way torpedo or one of these guided missiles work is that it makes like thousands of mistakes in the process. Like, it micro adjusts, makes a mistake, micro adjusts towards the right angle. The target is moving, makes another adjustment, makes another adjustment, makes like thousands and thousands of this multiple, mistakes and corrections until finally it reaches its targets. Human beings are exactly the same. Look at our babies, our kids. When they learn to walk, they crawl, they fall, they get up, they crawl, they fall, they walk, they fall, they pick themselves up. That constant cycle of, I'm making a mistake, I don't give up, I'm picking myself up, I'm learning, I'm still like, the motor neuron skills. And it's the same with any kind of sports. You learn to play football, you learn to play badminton. It's practice, practice, practice that basically perfects the motor neuron skills for you to be able to basically become better at what you do. And until it becomes naturally ingrained into your subconscious. So the mistakes that I made, one of them was, this is a mistake I made previously, and I should have really learned from my lesson. But again, I haven't really ridden very, very far, and in all honesty, I made the mistake. Okay, I made the mistake. Fine. Basically, what happened was going down a hill, and really, when you're going at that kind of speed, you need to be aware that especially if there's a bend, you need to be aware of like how much you're turning. One thing I did was, alhamdulillah, I did turn correctly, but what the mistake that I made was I didn't slow down enough. So as I made the turn, I ended up swinging out into the opposite oncoming traffic, like the lane onto the opposite side of the lane, which was like the oncoming traffic. And that was basically not good. That was not good, because obviously, had there been a car on the other side, I basically would have had an accident. But alhamdulillah, there was no car coming up from the other side. So even though I ended up on the wrong side of the road, I basically survived that incident. I made that mistake once before, I think, when we were in, it wasn't Oxford. We were riding somewhere else. We were doing a national Bristol. That's what it was. We were in Bristol, and I made that mistake before, where I was going down a hill and I miscalculated the kind of left turning. Since then, alhamdulillah, we've me and the brothers, from the Brothers on Bikes cycling club, we used to go to the cycling track in Solihull, and we used to basically like do laps, and it's like a figure of eight, and we would be like proper pelting it down like at 18 miles an hour, 19 miles an hour, and then we would be taking the, like, it would twist the road, the path would twist, and we'd turn like would turn all the way around, like do a figure of eight. And what that does is that at those kind of speeds, it teaches you to it teaches you to like position yourself on the road where you're going to do the turning, like how much, where you have to be to take that turn, how much you can twist your body, lean over. I don't know if you guys have ever seen motor racing. It's not that crazy, obviously. Those guys like go proper, they lean down until their knees like almost rubbing the ground. It's not that bad, but you can, if you lean over and you lean over with your hips, you can actually take a turning, a left turning or a right turning, much more easily than if you were simply just twist turning a handle. It's much more easy to control your body. So yeah, I ended up on the wrong side of the road, and that was not good. But alhamdulillah, I've learned from my mistake. where you have to be to take that turn, how much you can twist your body, lean over. I don't know if you guys have ever seen, motor racing. It's not that crazy, obviously. Those guys like go proper, they lean down until their knees like almost rubbing the ground. It's not that bad, but you can, if you lean over and you lean over with your hips, you can actually take a left turning or a right turning, much more easily than if you were simply just, twist turning your handle. It's much more easy to control your body. So yeah, I ended up on the wrong side of the road, and that was not good. But alhamdulillah, I've learned from my mistake, and I'll definitely slow down, especially when I'm going down a hill that fast. I just misjudged my speed. The second mistake I made, and this was a little bit stupid because I came to a little stream, and it wasn't that deep. But then I thought to myself, should I just ride through it? Like, should I bother getting off my bike, or should I just ride through it? And at least I had the sense to slow down, and I slowed down as much as I could. And as soon as I came into the stream and my wheels went onto the stream, I actually slipped because the stream was. Then obviously I was close enough to realize that the stream had algae on it, like the concrete underneath had algae on it, and it was so obviously I slipped and toppled off my bike, ended up wetting my clothes, wetting my shoes and everything that I didn't want to get wet. So I got out. Obviously, I stepped out of the thing. Had to walk through the. Damn, that was fast. Just obviously, I ended up walking through the stream anyway. It wasn't really a stream. It was like a really tiny. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the green in Acock's Green. There's like a little road. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's got a little stream. But anyway, it was a really small stream, shallow stream, and I ended up wetting my shoes and everything. And as I was cycling away from there, I just thought to myself, how could I have done that differently? And I really didn't want to have wet shoes because soggy socks and soggy shoes are like one of the worst things you can have when you're cycling. I looked at my Garmin and my GPS device, and I was like, still another 50 miles to go, and I just dreaded it. I thought, oh God, I don't want to ride like for another few hours with my feet completely soaking wet. But I kind of had no choice, to be honest. And I thought to myself, if I came across that encounter before, how would I deal with it? And then I thought to myself, I'm so stupid. I'm a Bengali. Yeah, what would a Bengali do in that kind of situation? And obviously, we would take our shoes and socks off, roll up our trousers, and walk across it. And I thought, why didn't I just do that? Because it'd make so much more sense. A, I wouldn't get my shoes wet, my socks wet, and secondly, it'd probably be safer. And I was kind of like just hitting myself for not doing that. And I thought, okay, even if my feet do get wet, I can kind of like shake them off, get them a little bit dry, and then at least I would have had dry feet and dry socks and dry shoes. But alhamdulillah, I carried on cycling, and I think it was because of all of the wind and everything, and the weather wasn't too bad. My shoes and everything dried up pretty quickly. They were at least my socks. I don't think my socks were dry, but they weren't squelching and stuff like that. When you wet your when you wet your feet, you get like a squelching sensation inside your Wellingtons and stuff. That's basically how it felt. But that kind of drift stopped after a while. Um, yeah, so the solo 100 miles was definitely an experience, and alhamdulillah, it just like proved to myself that I've got the strength, the physical stamina, and the strength to do these kind of like long rides. So the next time, the brothers are asking for like a 60-mile ride, 70-mile ride, I won't feel I won't feel like hesitant or worried. I mean, as long as you're eating the right foods and you're fueling yourself, you will have the energy to do those kind of rides. Um, like one of the advice I got from the guys was not to take too much food with me because they'll be like, you can stop at a shop and fuel up there and stuff and buy your stuff from there. But I personally, like, I don't know, I just felt like I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to like try and finish as quick as I can. Maybe because I set myself a target, of 16 miles an hour minimum speed and over the 100 miles, and also try and finish the whole thing in 7.5 hours. And I think I would have done that, to be honest. I don't think it was. I think I definitely would have done that because by 70 miles, I had actually stuck. I was like at 16 miles an hour, 16.5 miles actually average. So I was actually doing really good in terms of the speed and the time and everything. It's only towards the end when I think my Garmin that normally calculates the distance miscalculated the elevation. The elevation is basically how much you're going to be cycling uphill, and that's what basically is the real killer. The distance is okay, it's not too bad, but when you come to a hill and you have to carry all your body weight and all of your water and everything, the weight of everything up a hill, cycling up a hill, that's when you really feel your thighs burning and your legs burning basically. And I was supposed to do 2,800 feet of elevation. I ended up doing 4,800 feet. And that is, yeah, it's crazy as it sounds. So I ended up doing an extra 2,000 feet of elevation. And normally, like 2,000 feet, you'd probably do that in like a 30-mile ride. But obviously, all of the elevation hit towards the end of the ride, and that's like the worst thing. The worst part is like when you're already exhausted from doing 100 miles, and then you have to, I think when I started hitting the hills, it was around about after the 70 miles mark. So obviously, I made a video at 75 miles saying, guys, I'm completely drained. Mentally, alhamdulillah, I had the stamina and I had the, you know, the calmness and the clarity and the focus. But it was the physical side that was killing me. I think towards like the end, about 90 miles onwards, my left knee started playing up a little bit, and my right calf was playing up a little bit as well. And that's the worst time for your body to start playing up when you're hitting those hills, and the hills are just like coming, and they're constantly there, and it's like there's no end to them basically, like one hill after another hill after another hill. And like there was actually, to be honest, most of them, I think there's only two that I can really call a hill. The rest of them were just elevation basically, but because it was constant, it was just like draining away. And I think like at that stage, I did like an average of 11 miles an hour or something. Like I was going like stupidly slow. My average is 11 miles an hour, and I just thought to myself, there's no way I'm gonna hit 16 miles an hour, not on these hills, not with the energy levels that I've got at the moment. I just don't want to burn myself out. So in total, obviously, if you check my Strava, in total it says that it took me 7 hours 15 minutes to do that ride, and my average is 15.4, I think, miles per hour. Um, but I personally think that those numbers are skewed a little bit because of the elevation. Like I did an extra 2,000 feet of elevation which would have slowed down my average. Like when I made set that target for myself of 16 miles an hour, it was based on 2,800 feet of elevation over a 100 mile span. But the extra elevation, I think, is what slowed me down and threw my numbers off. I'm not justifying, obviously. I just think that if I knew the elevation, then I definitely wouldn't have set myself a goal of 16 miles an hour. And the second thing is the total ride, because of like a couple of misjudged turnings, shall I say. I wasn't paying too much attention to the road at some points, around about 50 miles an hour, 50 miles, and I misjudged a turning, and I ended up cycling like a mile in the wrong direction. And you might think, what the hell? How did you like go for a mile in the wrong direction? It was all downhill, so that's basically why I managed to go that far with that before I realised that it was asking me to do a U-turn. And obviously, when I was cycling back, it was all uphill, so that wasn't very clever. So that's like an extra 2 miles which I didn't need to do, and then I think that my road ride total was 106 miles. The target was really 100 miles, but it obviously ended up being 106 miles, and I think again that's basically skewed my time as well. So instead of being 6 hours, it's 7 hours 15 minutes, an extra 45 minutes, which I think that extra 6 miles is basically where how to account for that 45 minutes. But overall, alhamdulillah, I'm really, really proud of being able to having done that distance. I did it once before, but this was going back to 2016, and I was like at the peak of my fitness then. Like my weight was 80 kgs, alhamdulillah. At the moment, I'm like 90 kilos, so I'm carrying like an extra 10 kilos of weight, which is like a stone and a half almost. And that's not good. Carrying that extra weight is not good at all. It makes the ride a lot harder. And obviously, just general fitness is not as good as it used to be. So it's all work in progress. But I am happy with myself because in the past I've done with the 100 mile that I did was with a group, and it was like part of an event. So you have like that that buzzing mentality of trying to finish early and finish with everyone and all of that. And you've got the time and you've got everything else. And yeah, so alhamdulillah, I'm really, really proud that I managed to finish that on my own, completely solo. That's my first ever 100 mile solo that I've ever done. And, it's a different type of, stamina and stuff that you need, and motivation and perseverance and endurance that you need for those kind of rides. But I'm really, really happy that I did that, alhamdulillah. I've proved to myself that I can do it because it was something that was always at the back of my mind that as a cyclist, I've never done like a century, I've never done 100 miles on my own. So now that I've got that badge, I can be proud of myself, alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum.